Oh, there I am. Hey. Well, ladies and gentlemen, boys, girls, and if tonight you just happen to identify as a crusty throw pillow on the couch, that's fine. We're here for you, all of you, even those crusty throw pillows, right, Ray?
That's right.
Better than a
That is
crusty sock
absolutely
under the
right.
couch. Better to be on the pillow on top of the
Oh,
couch. Now,
yeah.
tonight, I'm going to talk to you about somebody who probably has a very nice couch, amongst other things, and uh, he's got some nice grass. He has been with us before. I'm super excited to have him, and I know Matt would be too. Matt is off doing things that make more money than YouTube, and those are many and plentiful, but for Matt, they're very special, near and dear to his heart. So we're letting him have a little bit of grace tonight. Well, Matt will be back sometime soon. We don't know, but we'll keep you on the loop on that. But tonight, Ray, Cam from
Yeah.
Elevated Lawnscapes
Oh,
is in the. Oh my God! There I am,
mhm.
looming over his shoulder.
The
There I
watchful
am.
eye over here, right over
I'll
my
tell you what.
shoulder.
Yeah.
So yeah, hopefully there's no children watching this. They'll be frightened by that. But goodness gracious, yeah. Hey, that's
Actually,
my
I know
Go
where
ahead.
that picture came from too. I know exactly where that
I
picture came from.
I think that was the Sean Smith Hungry Southerner episode. Uh, in I think that's the Budget Lawn Superfan episode. That's when he's their number one fan, I think. So
Yeah,
Actually, I think this was
it was a real shame because that episode, that's one of the only lost episodes. And you had
Still available
tried
in
to
audio.
match Matt chest
It
hair
was.
for chest hair.
No, it was that I was trying to get the right shirt on and everything. So luckily, I cannot even approach the amount of style and swag that Cam has. So I didn't even try. I didn't try tonight, and there will be no chest hair. Only what you see in the photograph here, and what's left of that episode, which is still in audio format. So if you want to listen to that episode, it is a pretty epic one. Uh,
Yeah.
Sean was all over the place that night for a variety of reasons, some of which won't be stated. But yeah, go check that out. We do have the audio only format, which we haven't teased or talked about in a while. So if you do enjoy watching us on YouTube, thank you. If you don't, you can go on all the major podcast platforms. Just search for The Grass Factor on there. And this show and all the ones we've recorded previously are on there, as well as all of our burner return episodes. So you can check them out there, listen to them in the car, and try to guess what the pictures are that are on the screen that we're talking about in audio only format. Tonight, though, this pictures on the screen that I want to talk about. Listen, I saw something today on social media, and I'm not a huge social media guy, but I saw something that there was supposed to be some type of announcement tonight. Is that what's going to take place? Do I do? And
Yeah.
I don't have. We don't have to do it yet. We don't have to do it yet. Like I don't want to lead into this. So we'll get there. All right. I just want to make sure that is the plan. That's on the docket or the agenda for this evening. But first, for the folks that don't, you haven't seen you before, who are you? Where are you? And why are you here?
Yeah, so Cam from Elevated Lawnscapes. I'm actually in Maryland right now. Originally from North Carolina. That's where all my people are. Family and stuff's down there. I've been in the lawn for a couple of years now. Bought my first house and was like, you know what? I always wanted to have one of those golf course looking lawns, but I'm gonna do something a little better, do something a little different. Um, always wanted to have that, and it just stuck with me from the beginning. And I just wanted to make sure, hey, I went about it. I learned as much as I could. I've had my failures along the way, and I had to dig deeper into the books and figure some things out. And YouTube channel, Elevated Lawnscapes on all social media platforms, basically there and IG. So you can check me out on any of those. And one of the main reasons here is we got an announcement about a big project that we got going on. And it's going to be something a little different because I've been in cool season world for a couple of years. That's kind of what I know. And we're going to see if we can't switch some things up. And
Ooh,
yeah,
boy, man, that's a hell of a
some,
tease right
bring
there.
something.
That's a hell of a tease. Now, um, I've had the pleasure of being on your program with Polo and with Turf, and I will say that it is probably one of the more real conversations that I have. And we keep it real here for sure. I keep it real, when I talk with Ryan Knorr on that podcast. But I don't know, like that the topics that you guys go into, I think you approach it. It's interesting, like um I guess how precise you all want to be, and you being, I don't know if you want to share generally what your profession is, but I think it's one that is built on precision. So I was going to ask that question if you wanted to share, and if not, could you at least just talk about like how your mindset, your approach to life, whatever, informs how you manage turf? Because I think we're all a little bit that way. Like there's people that are loosey goosey that are just like, oh
Yeah.
hey, whatever. And if I throw an extra 10 bags of fertilizer out there, no big deal. And
It'll be
you have
all
other
right.
people that are like,
You
I got
can't
to go down to
overdo
the
it in
last
your life.
row. As much as your wallet can handle. No, but seriously, so if you want to share about your occupation, but also, just talk about how is that like wrapped up in who you are as a person, is how you manage lawn, or is it vastly different?
No, and I think that's the thing. That's just a part of my personality. It is if you land on my channel, you'll hear me say data-driven decisions. That's one of the things that I believe in. I don't believe in just throwing stuff out for no reason and not knowing why you have the issues that you do or why
Mhm.
you're doing what you're actually doing. So, um, from a professional standpoint, I am a engineer. I've kind of stepped away from a lot of my engineering portions at this point in my career and doing more management right now. But given that background of the fact that engineers, we deal with data. I mean, numbers is what we do. So when things get gray, I don't quite understand gray. I mean, it's either it's either right or wrong. It's either cut and dry. You need X amount of product. You need X amount of this to put in, and when you do that, you're gonna get Y that's gonna come out of that. So that's just kind of the way that I do, and it can be sometimes difficult. It may seem like I'm going very in depth on my channel, but what I do is I try to simplify a lot of that also and just kind of give people a high level overview of what's going on and kind of walk you through those steps. But one of the things is make sure that you're making decisions based off of something concrete, as in data. So that's just one of the things you'll always hear me recommend you getting a soil test if you're just starting out in your lawn. Um,
Mhm.
People can say what they want to say. That
Sure.
is a good foundation for where you should start. And then from there, you can now build upon that and then develop a program that's going to give you the results that you're looking for and also potentially save you some money from putting out a whole bunch of stuff that you don't need if you didn't get that data to help you make that decision.
I love that approach, and I think Ray let me ask you this, and I'm sure Cam is probably curious the answer because we all love us some Ray. So let me ask you this, Ray. Would you agree 100% that you were the same way, like 100% data driven, or very, very much leaning that way? If we had to, choose the 1 to 5 on the, the survey scale or whatever, like, or is there still an element of, and I think this is what Cam has sort of learned through his trials and tribulations, and I don't wanna put words in your mouth, but, like, the feel or the art aspect of how to blend those things. So, Ray, what do you think? What's the right blend for you of art versus science and data?
Okay, because we're dealing with something that's very aesthetic, uh,
Mhm.
I I would probably place myself at the 90% data, but 10% is art. And for me,
Mhm.
the numbers just give a plausible explanation for what I'm seeing. That's what data is to me, is that it gives me a good explanation for what I'm seeing. And over the years, I've developed the ability to correlate what I'm seeing with a certain number. For example,
Mhm.
I can do that.
Mhm.
But the only the thing is that in order for me to do that, I had to actually learn it in a very scientific manner because I still remember my third year soil science class at
Long
university
time ago, Ray.
where no, but then I remember it quite vividly because start of the semester we had these pots lined up in the greenhouse, right? And every single plant was a deficiency knockout of one element. So something was deficient in, say, nitrogen, something was deficient in potassium, phosphorus, magnesium, calcium, manganese, sulfur, etc. And the experiment was replicated for both, I believe, field corn and soybeans. So you got to observe effect of what you're seeing. And of course, the other part of this was you then run the soil test on all of these specimens, right? Soil
Mhm.
test and tissue test. And then you got to correlate all of these numbers with what you were seeing, hopefully. So, yeah, data and numbers mean something. And so for me too, I base what I do on some kind of concrete data. And that is where I get real cross-eyed, for example, when I have people saying, "Oh, just throw this down." And I ask, "Why? Why do you
Why?
need this? For what? I mean, why are you doing this?" Or people get into this microbe hugger, loop, and I'm like, I'm going to stop them and say, "You know what? I don't care about the microbes because
Mhm.
show me the test that says that if this certain bacterial colony is not present, I'm going to have problems with the grass or the ornamentals. Show me that data first before you talk to me about microbes."
Mm, and so in that vein of like what's important and what's not, I guess, Cam, as you have okay, so you've come from a place where numbers and concrete data and all those stuff is important for you to make decisions, right? And then you come into
Yes.
space where it's like, whoa, like I don't know how to apply that concept yet. What has been the most impactful way that you've used data to make good decisions? Like it doesn't have to be just one, but what are some of the ones that you've found to be the most important to you as you've gone and started and where you are today, to where you are today?
So I will go ahead and say so fertilization. I mean that's
Mhm,
a big part of lawn care right
mhm,
there.
mhm,
So fertilization and having that data, it has drove me to I think getting the results that I'm getting out of my lawn now. Um, so understanding, especially from like your CEC, like I didn't know that my soil was as sandy as what it was. And now understanding that, that changed the whole way that I fertilize my lawn. And now I'm able to sustain that nice green and not get those flushes of up and down when you're just dumping a whole bunch of fertilizer on in larger amounts. And it doesn't last that long because you're seeing so soil sandy, and we get all this rain over here, as you
right?
call it, in the armpit of turf care.
It is.
Um, but and then it's it's not able to hold all of those nutrients to where the plant can actually utilize it. So using that data and being able to understand how it works and then changing it and making a fertilization program based on my conditions and not based off of somebody else's lawn care plan. I don't have anything against anybody that's got lawn care plans out there, but I think
Yeah.
there's just so many different variables from house to house to house that you need to alter and be able to have that data to be able to alter that program so that it fits you.
Uh, and I would agree with that, that, there's I guess a certain here's what I always say, right, is like, it's a different way of saying it, but the same thing is that, a plan that you get like that is, sort of a collection of tasks, right, that should
Mhm.
yield a good result, and I would call that maintenance, right? So, like, if I, have a boiler system, right, at work or a school or something like that, or if I have, an aircraft that I have, like, yeah, like, I'm gonna go do the things I need that I'm supposed to do at certain intervals, and I should
Yep.
expect, right, that this should work out. Here's the difference, though, between the boiler system or the aircraft or whatever, is that there are no manufacturer's recommended instructions, right? There's, as we talked last week with, Dr. Shaddix, there are the people that grow the turf and that are, manufacturers in the sense of they're trying to sell you stuff. And then there's the folks that are, university academics that have, in some cases, limited means of being able to research and tell you every last thing that you want to know from a data perspective. So there is this void, right? To your point, that gray area that exists, and how do we live within that? It's tough, right? It can be very
Mhm.
challenging. So,
Mm.
I think what you're talking about though, in some people argue and say, oh, it's semantics. It doesn't. It means the same thing. Is rather than saying maintenance, right? A maintenance plan. We need a management plan, right? We need to be able to
Yep.
adapt to different weather, different pests, things that, we can either foresee, seasonally or, or that come up that are unforeseen, right? Army worms a couple years ago, right? In the central and eastern part of the United
Oh,
States,
yeah.
right?
Yep.
So, things like that that you manage that system, and I think, Ray can definitely, I think agree here that it's easy to sit there and make a list of things that, oh, I'm going to do this, this,
Yep.
this, and this, and when something doesn't
Till you
go to
till you
plan,
get punched in the mouth.
that's what, well, it's a Mike Tyson quote,
Mhm.
right? Everybody's got a plan
That
until they get
that's the
punched in
Mike
the mouth.
that's the Mike Tyson quote that is likewise so applicable to turf grass because this is where part of the art of turf grass management is, you know what? Shut your mouth and open your eyes and open your ears, as my father was fond of saying. And
Yeah.
the reason why he said that is because too many people are busy talking, 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 but they are not
Mhm.
paying attention to what is in
Yep.
front of them or
Yep.
going on around them. And because of that, they are missing out on what's going on around them that can possibly tell them something. And that is like the 10% of me too, where I get a lot of hell because people say, you walk around, you look around, and you haven't touched anything or done anything. And, I tell them what I am doing is I am taking everything in so that I can make a smarter decision rather than just, how shall I say, acting and reacting. I much prefer to be proactive.
Mhm.
Yeah, and that's
Yeah.
tough, like, yeah, explaining that to people, it's gotta be sometimes it's not doing anything, and I know we've talked about that
Yep.
before here too. So, okay, so
Hmm.
on that side of, like, learning to live in that gray space or whatever, right, that, is between somewhere between academic research and hard numbers and trying to validate your own stuff, right, as you learn and go through versus, the claims, we'll call them, is, you know, I think from the first time that we spoke until now, you've continued to learn, continue to grow, and I mean, I've seen that, in your content. I've seen that in the conversations that we've had, all that kind of stuff. And so, my question is this: without whenever you want to announce your tease for tonight, that's fine. But I want to ask you in this vein is whether you announce it now or not is you're clearly like in a level of comfort with where you're at right now that you feel like you need to push and step outside that. Like, otherwise you
Yeah.
wouldn't be doing this. Either that or you're just a damn fool. I mean, I don't think that at all. I've seen time out. Let me get time out. We've all seen that, and I don't care if it's like home improvement, lawn care, whatever. That person that gets way out over their skis, like, you know what, man? Yep, I'm gonna buy a Corvette and restore it. No, you're not, Ted. No, you're not. Like, you don't know the first damn thing. You don't even own a socket set. No, I'm gonna do it, man. I'm gonna tear my lawn out, and I'm gonna put in 3/4 inch printed ryegrass, man. Just watch. Like, Marty, you ain't doing that. I
Nope,
mean, you might
not gonna
try.
happen.
It's just a matter of how far you get before this entire thing explodes in your face, right? Like, so I don't get that vibe at all. But we all have that friend, right? Or we all have that acquaintance that we're like, oh
Yep,
boy,
yep,
there goes Marty. But in this
yep.
case, like, tell me about the mindset behind, and this, I think this is important because it informs people, especially that watch this channel, that like us and don't hate us. Is that it is? Oh, hey, just saying. That there is a certain amount of growth that everybody that watches us and enjoys us goes through,
Yeah.
and then they get to this point where they're like, man, I gotta try something different, try something else. Somebody said in the chat before, you got a FAFO to feel good about yourself. So just tell me about the mindset going into this, and you can spill the beans whenever. It doesn't have to be right now, but in general, what are you thinking and why this and why now? Or just why now?
Um, so I will say it's one of those things that I've been in cool season for a while. So that was another hint. I've been doing cool season lawns for a bit. Um, and I get a number of questions about warm season stuff, and I've never done any warm season type stuff. Coming from the South, everybody's got it. I mean, for the most part, I mean, they're running Centipede, Bermuda. Um, didn't see much zoysia in my area, but
Mhm.
Centipede and Bermuda were basically dominant. And I never really saw any like amazing lawns, like just man, they look good. And then too, we were dealing with bigger yards and stuff down there too. We're talking acres at a minimum. Um, and in the fact of doing cool season for a while is like I just feel like it's always like a challenge. I like a challenge, and when you step outside your comfort zone, you tend to get some growth,
Mhm.
and it may be a challenge, and it's not gonna be easy, but that's just kind of been how my life has went, all the way through academia, everything. Like I've moved away, I've lived out in Iowa, I've lived in Kentucky, like not the known part of Kentucky, like in the middle of nowhere, Kentucky. Um, and then I've moved up here where I'm living right now in Maryland, like just away from all of my surroundings. I spent a year in Japan, living and working
I didn't
over
know that.
there. Like I've always challenged myself and I've always been looking for that next challenge. And I think now is the time. Like I need a challenge. I need to bring something new uh to the channel. So I'll
Dude.
go ahead and say it. We are about to bring on some warm season turf onto uh Elevated Lawnscapes channel. You will start to see some warm season turf coming in, and it's going to be a full renovation. So just as I do, it's not going to be anything small. I'm jumping all the
That's
way
good.
in. We going 20,000 square feet right off the gate. Let's
Well,
go.
listen, it's all about, hey, listen, it's all about how you term it, right? In terms of scale. Some people might say, goddamn, Cam, that's a whole lawn. I mean, you could just say, it's 20,000 square foot test plot.
It's
I'm just not
just
sure yet.
20,000.
You know,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah.
Yeah,
it's
it,
it's
it,
I've,
just
it's
I've still,
it's only a half an acre. I mean, that's
yeah,
not
yeah.
extraordinary. It's one lawn,
Just a
right?
half,
It's just one
just a
lawn,
half acre. Hey, if I
Ray
need
could
to go
sell
to the other
and
half acre, I can go to the other half acre.
Well, I was gonna say you got options. Ray, I'm saying that in Hawaii, Ray could sell both of his kidneys right now today and not pay for the sod that it would take to do 20,000 square feet. So,
Yeah,
you
right.
got that going for you.
exactly, and
Yeah,
yeah, and furthermore,
yeah.
there's not a lot of Bermuda to even be had. So
Mm,
I'm doubly messed up. I mean, so yeah, Cam, I think you're kind of in a good place, and you were planning on. Correct me if I'm wrong. Uh,
mm-mm.
you were planning on seeding in Bermuda into basically a lawn that has seen better days.
Yeah,
It
take
has
us through the
definitely seen.
synopsis.
Yeah, so J Pink, if you want to pop some of those pictures up, this is present day. My pops actually sent them to me yesterday. So we're dealing with North Carolina. So this is dormant Bermuda or centipede that has now been overtaken by weeds. So
Mm-hmm.
where we are right now, the lawn used to look amazing. Like it just has the centipede is like it has gotten to the end of its life. Like it has just given up the ghost. It's just so the house is now probably close to 30, getting close to no, it's about 20 years old. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. So we're talking about 20 something, a little over 20 something years old at the house. And it has just kind of given up the ghost. It's no matter what you do to it. And it's been very little. Like so the past couple of years it's just kind of continued to go downhill. And a lot of my lawn care and my love for it came from my dad. Because he always kept a nice yard no matter what,
Mhm.
even at our old house, like it was always nice. So I know he's not happy right now. So with
Mhm.
that, I'm gonna try and help him out. We're gonna do a good little father and son project here, and we're gonna get out here and get after it. We've already started. So at this point, I think we've already talked about some of the lime applications that I've already made. Already, and of course, I started with a soil test. We got the data
Mhm.
and everything. Dang, that's one thing I forgot to send over. Forgot to send over the soil test. Um,
Mm.
got that, and then we made the corrections. So we've already went down and fogged it up, and I had that spiker spreader rolling. Hey, just turn it wide open and let it fly.
So
Golly.
you were
So
just like turning it white. You were just turning it
yeah,
white with lime,
yeah,
and
yeah.
I think, Cam, you would not have even known that that had to be done unless you got
Hmm.
that soil test, right? You wouldn't have known.
Yep,
Although to me,
yep,
intuitively, this is the art part. Is for me normally anywhere I see centipede grass growing
yeah. Low
natively
pH.
and naturally, I'm going to assume
Hmm.
low pH. However, I mean, I'm fond of this saying on this show of assumption is the mother of all screw ups.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I
yeah.
don't like to necessarily assume. So good job on the soil test, because then with that soil test in hand now, Cam, you now know, okay, what kind of lime do you even need to put down, right? What type?
Yep,
Because there's two basic types of
yep,
lime. There's
yep.
dolomitic lime, which introduces a certain level of magnesium. And then there's calcitic lime, which is just straight calcium for cases where your soil magnesium is already adequate to excessive. And so, just for our listeners, which category did you fall into, dolomitic or calcitic?
Dolomite.
Mm.
Dolomitic, because what, both were on the
Both
lower side,
were. Yep.
and here's what I know about Bermuda is Bermuda is basically hungry for both calcium and magnesium. And it is to the point where I've literally seen instances where a low pH, lack of calcium, lack of magnesium gets to the point where no matter how much nitrogen you throw at that grass will never look nice.
Right.
Okay? It'll always
Yeah.
look pale and sick and anemic, and you're going to be blasting it with nitrogen and more nitrogen, and you're going to wonder why.
Yeah. So yeah,
Yeah.
I went down with that. Knowing I think pH was I was just over there looking for it. pH was like a 5, I think it was like a 5.5 or a 5.6, something like that. So it needed some movement. Um, pretty low CEC on that. So really didn't. So it was, and buffer pH was fairly low. So it wasn't going to take a whole lot to be able to move it, but we ended up with 1,000 pounds down. Uh, thousand pounds of lime
Turn them white. Turn it white.
went
Exactly.
down, and so we've got that part down, and that was back in like just after New Year, so beginning of January. So it's been down a little over 2 months now, or about 2 months now. So we'll let that work. They've been getting decent rain and stuff down there, so now it's on to the next step, getting prepared for the kill off, and trying to figure out what we're gonna do next for ground prep, and what kind of sprigs, or are we gonna have to seed it? So
Oh
that's what I
Ooh,
boy.
I
got. Some
mean,
options. I got some options of what I want to do. So let's go
Let's
ahead and
talk
get
about that.
into it. And
Let's talk about that. So your options as you surveyed them, I guess. First of all, what have you settled on, and then let's talk about like what the tipping points are in making this decision. Let's talk about that. Options first, and then pros and cons, basically, of each in your mind.
all right, so um, seed. I've grown seed before.
Mhm.
I've grown a lot of seed
you're
before.
familiar. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
familiar.
is not as much of a challenge there. So I want to do something different, something that I haven't had any experience with before. So again, me wanting to take on new challenges. So I would like to sprig it is what I want to do. I want to go with
Okay.
sprigs. And one of the things is I want to go with iron cutter. That is what I wanna go with.
Oh, yeah.
I wanna go with
Ray,
iron cutter.
my shorts just got tight. All right, that's good.
Mine too. Mine too. I mean, that's just, TMI.
Mm.
And, to get, to the, to the point, Cam, growing in from sprigs is not that much different from growing in a lawn from seed. It's not that
Okay,
much different because, when you have sprigs, the most important thing is water. Okay? That's the most
okay,
important thing is water because with sprigs, now, the way I want to explain sprigs to people are sprigs are just like cuttings of your desirable grass. And when I say cuttings, the sprigs are pieces of roots and stolons and maybe even some rhizomes that have all been shoved into a bag or shoved into a trailer. And here you go. And to the uninitiated, people are going to look at that and say, "Oh, that ain't nothing. That's just a trailer full of grass clippings. I mean, what you going to do with that?" But to somebody like us,
mhm,
that is the beginning of a new lawn. However, okay, when you have those sprigs, because that is live grass, and I consider them unrooted cuttings, most important thing when you have unrooted cuttings, of course, is water. until those sprigs take root in your soil, you're going to have to keep them from dehydrating and blowing away. That's
Yeah,
just the most
I
important
think
thing.
it's the toughest thing, and it's the most critical thing, and I can tell you that, it has probably been the thing that, I saw it firsthand this year, and I'll tell you how here in a second. JPEG,
Mhm.
I'm gonna throw you a link, and if you can throw this up, and we'll walk through just what this looks like for Cam's benefit, mostly of what it looks like to grow in iron cutter from Sprigs and what it looks like. So jump into that second or third photo there, not the two. That's the old field. Click on that link. Yeah, right there. And we're just gonna cycle through. All right. So this is the day of sprigging. As Ray said, this is on a sand cap, right? So when you do it in
Okay.
soil, it can be a little bit more challenging just in terms of something else that we're going to talk about here because you have brought with you all the receipts, and we're going to talk about a very important study that was done a few years back and talk about how that fits into what we're going to say here. What I'm about to say though is that when you do it on soil, the process of having to dry it out so that you can do, you know, make a fertilizer application right up front is a little bit challenging. So, I'd strongly encourage you if you're going to do it on soil is using, a slow release product. It's not something I would normally recommend, but on soil, it's just so darn challenging to get this stuff dried out reasonably enough that you're not going to rut it all up. So let's just kind of walk through this, and on the backside, we'll unpack a few things. And one particular thing that I'm concerned with that you don't have access to that I do, and we'll kind of walk through with Ray how we can deal with it. So, all right, slide through
You
here, J
just you
Pink.
just answered you just answered one of my questions that I was debating already on the fertilizer.
Well, so here, this
What
is it
th
dried down without water on it. So, like, if you back up to
Okay.
that first one, J Pink, this is right after it's done watering. So it's just wet enough on top that you're seeing a sheen of water, but no more, nothing more like that. So, okay, keep sliding forward here, J Pink. Keep going. There it is, all dried out. So this is week 0, essentially. This is
Dry
the day it
down,
was
yeah,
sprigged.
a
Yep.
little.
So
Mhm.
slide down, keep going, keep going, keep going. So, all right. So here we are. This is about 14 days after the initial sprigging. So, just like Ray said, these are chopped up pieces of plant parts, right? That are harvested as sprigs. If you're going to make your own from sod, it's the same principle. And again, the idea is that they start to push out new growth. They tack into the soil, and then your runners and your rhizomes start spreading, underground and below, or underground and above ground, and start knitting together, almost like a piece of carpet here. Okay, so keep sliding forward,
What
J
was
Pink.
what was the rate? What rate did y'all go down with about?
Uh, this here is this is a 600-pound bushel, or 600 bushel per acre rate, I should say. And we'll talk about why
Okay.
that's important too from your study. I
Yep.
think that study is a really, really important one. All right, so slide forward here. We're still at 2 weeks. 2 weeks here still. Keep it rolling. All right, here we go. This is about 4.5 weeks in, so we're ready to mow. All right. Um, you know, the bigger the area, the splotchier you might have some coverage, things like that. If you're not, how those sprigs go in, this machine here that put these sprigs in push basically spread the sprigs out over the surface, and then it had these like little discs that you could control the depth and what they call crimp that into the ground. So if there's
Mhm.
some way, shape, or form you can find a crimper, just a grooved roller of some type,
Yep.
man, that makes a big difference. But if you can't do that, just a roughed up soil surface right before you start. So like, not a rough Harley rake, but it's kind of loose and friable up on top. It's not like wet and tacky, so where you can put that stuff down and then take just a pull behind or a walk behind roller with it and push that
And roll
stuff
them.
down in the ground a little bit.
Yes, and
Yep.
roll it in.
Now I will say this
Okay.
too is that on this stuff, this is getting mowed here on its initial mow at like 3/4, something like that. And one thing I can tell you for a fact, no matter which one you're growing in, rolling this repeatedly. So this was mowed every other day and rolled every day. and the idea was is that, you're
Okay.
trying to push those runners down on the ground as much as you can.
Get
Now,
them in.
you're backing off the water a lot here too. These are now established plants. They just need to kind of grow and do their thing. So once you get through that first 3 or so weeks, maybe up into week 4, your watering is not going to have to be as crazy after that. You can really start to back down and get more into, maybe just a couple of times a day, and that's really it. So go ahead and push forward here, J Pink. So first mowing, things are looking good. But like I said, 4.5 weeks. This is probably another week later. It's starting to fill in. Do a pretty good job here. Again, this is about 5.5, 6 weeks, something like that. Same day as that big picture was taken just before that. Keep it rolling here, J Pink. So, seeing some scalping and seeing some areas here that are a little stubborn to fill in. Some of this here is just traffic from the Sprig machine where it just pushed those sprigs down a little too deep. You might not have that, but you will probably have more attrition. And when I say attrition, I mean like, sprigs or little plant parts that just don't make it because they're
Just
not
die
tacked
off.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to have that if you can't crimp them in there really well. All right, so go ahead and roll it forward. So here we are. This is probably about 7 weeks. This was an incredibly quick grow in. This was balls of the wall the entire time. This is about day 60 right here. So just about 8 weeks
Mm,
in. Uh, and again, still some density issues you can see here, like kind of over on the right about where the hash mark would be. There's still a couple
yeah.
little spots here and there, but overall doing pretty good. And then this is 2 weeks after that last picture. This is 10 weeks. So this went from you go all the way back to that rice paddy looking thing to this right here. That's 70 days.
Let's do it.
So
Let's do
get the hoses out.
it.
So there you go. All right. So, the things that you don't have access to that worry me, and I want Ray to give his opinion here. So, from a pre-emergent standpoint, we think about weeds and what could pop up, and the first concern is going to be summer annuals, which in your area is going to be crabgrass, goosegrass, right? So,
Yep.
maybe even Dallas grass. So the concern here is that we get into a situation where we have grassy weeds, annual and perennial, right? That might be difficult to deal with, and we can't use our normal so dinitroaniline, so like dimension
Yeah.
or
Yep.
dithiopyr or
Yep.
prodiamine or barricade.
Or
We can't
diamine.
use those
Yep.
because we will not get anything to spread out and get going.
Tack down. Yes.
What we normally do in a sports field situation is uh, we have access to a product called Ronstar, right? And
Buddy Ron.
so, old buddy Ron, not that Ron though. He'd sell you some if you asked for it, though, I'm sure.
Mm,
But the whole point there is that Ronstar is a cheat code in the fact that Ray explain what Ronstar does and then explain why Cam can't use it. And then maybe third,
Okay.
what are we going to do without Ronstar in this case?
So Ronstar. Okay. What Ronstar does is Ronstar is a pre-emergent. However, it acts in a very different way from your traditional pre-emergent because what Ronstar does is when it is applied to the soil surface, it does not inhibit root development. However, what Ronstar does to the weed seeds that are attempting to emerge is the weed seeds will contact that film of Ronstar on the soil surface, and that herbicide is extremely corrosive to that new shoot that is attempting to pop up.
mhm.
So it'll just burn it off and kill it. However, here's the issue with Ronstar. Ronstar is a aquatic pollutant. Ronstar is also a possible carcinogen. And Ronstar is also a skin and eye irritant. Therefore, there's something on the bag of Ronstar granule and on the jug of Ronstar flowable. Do not apply to residential turf. Only
Yep.
allowed in sod farms, sports fields, and golf courses. Those are the only places where you're allowed to use that. So, what do we do without Ronstar? Okay. I have a program for going without Ronstar because I've actually been dealing with sprigged Bermuda, sprigged St. Augustine, and sprigged zoysia in residential lawns for, I don't know, for almost 30 years. So, what I've used in that situation is, as a pre-emergent, simazine.
Simazine. Yeah.
However, please listen. The amount of simazine that you apply at, after sprigging is literally only the equivalent of 1 pound per acre. No more.
Okay.
And then the other thing that you can do when your sprigs are, I want to say, 50% covered, is you may apply a very low rate of prodiamine. I'm talking about no more than 8 ounces of the WDG per acre. You don't go 2+ pounds annual max on the new sprigs
Right.
now. Don't. Please don't.
Only if you're trying to sell.
And then finally, once you have tacked down of the sprigs, and say you have some undesirables coming up in your grow-in, did you know that you can treat with selective herbicides at that time?
Yeah. Would you recommend uh wait until the first mow, or just after
No.
once they're attacked down, just go for it at that point?
Once they're tacked down, start. Please start,
Okay.
because the worst situation I've had to deal with growing wise was when they delayed any attempt at weed control until the goosegrass was literally the size of a dinner plate.
Hmm. Yeah.
And then, Ryan, at that point, I literally had to bust out that thing that Jim Brosnan talks about.
Which one's that?
The Pilex and Syncor.
Oh yeah, so that's that's interesting. I'll see if I can pull out the YouTube video. Well, we'll come
But
back
but
to
an-
that.
but
Go ahead, go
anyway,
ahead, go ahead.
Cam. Okay, once you have tacked down and some development of your sprigs, here's what you can do in that new lawn. You may apply Celsius. You may apply Revolver. You may apply Quicksilver. You may apply Halosulfuron or Certainty or Monument. You can do those things as soon as you have rooting and some development of those sprigs. And the beauty of doing it when your sprigs are still young and your weeds hopefully are still very small, you can put the lights out on the weeds using pretty moderate rates of those herbicides. And what I like about herbicides like, say, Monument and Celsius is that those both act as pre-emergence against further weed growth in a lot of cases.
Okay.
Now, a lot of people don't see that in lawn care because they are thinking only apply to individual weeds. But in this case, I'm telling you, send that mix over the entire lawn when you start seeing weeds and just be done with it. Because, Ryan, can you explain to Cam what happens when you apply such a mix to a sprigged field that does have some grassy and broadleaf weeds coming out? Explain to Cam what happens.
Well, it can be a little ugly, and that's kind of what I want to show is some of the stuff
Yeah.
that came out of. So this whole program. Let me send these to JPink real quick. Um,
Yeah.
these are
Yeah, it might
programs
look
that are it's a little
mildly
rough. I
scary.
mean, you
Yeah.
like a lot scary. So, okay, so this is work that was done originally at Virginia Tech, and then they brought it
Mhm.
over to UT here to study it a little bit more. Jim Brosnan did, but really, this is Sean Askew in his lab, and I cannot remember the other weed scientist there that really like dug in deep and wrote the paper on this. So this is just them validating data. I believe this is Tahoma 31, so another cold tolerant Bermuda grass, right? That is,
Okay.
Yeah.
close enough in terms of what you're gonna see. I would say that it is just a tad bit more sensitive to herbicide damage, but you're seeing essentially what is, just a low rate of speed zone and the pilot. So this is trying to take out goose out of Bermuda, right? So Ray, can you explain quickly, while I pull up the rest of these pictures, why speed zone, not necessarily by itself. I mean, I can, and we had some pretty good success with it this year, in concert with a couple other things, but nothing that was specifically labeled for goose. But why speed zone in particular has been shown to be effective? What are the reasons that that seems to work on goosegrass where it doesn't control any other grassy weeds?
Okay, the reason why is because goosegrass happens to be rather susceptible to one herbicide in that speed zone formulation called carfentrazone. And what happens to goosegrass that is contacted by carfentrazone, especially when you at a fairly young stage of growth, is that goosegrass is just burnt, torched. Now, I noticed on that slide that Ryan put up that it was applied in combination with Pilex. Here is what happens when you apply Pilex and carfentrazone together. What happens is that there's a moderation of the effect of the Pilex on the Bermuda. However, the opposite of that is that it enhances the negative effect on your weeds like goosegrass. And so, if I didn't want to deal with speed zone, one of my options would be, say, tenacity plus carfentrazone by itself or Pilex plus carfentrazone by itself. That is how one may go after goosegrass without the internet's darling. And do you know what the internet's darling is, Cam?
Robert Palmer? Oh, sorry.
No, 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 MSMA. Because you've got all of these people saying, just go down, get a jug of MSMA, and start
Right.
spraying it all over the place. However, the reality on that is that on goosegrass especially, one application of MSMA is not necessarily going to do it. You're talking about
Mm,
spraying it maybe 2 or 3 times in it. And while
right.
you're doing that, let's see, you've broken the label by spraying it the first time on a residential lawn, and then you're going to break the label again and then again.
Yeah, and then again.
Whereas all of these products that I'm describing to you are legal and labeled for application to a residential lawn. How's that?
Aha.
Hey,
So
we like to
show
stay.
oh, go ahead.
We like to stay in bounds sometimes. And we like to.
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Not
I
2
don't
feet,
think I
one
look good.
foot,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
good in
yeah,
orange? How
yeah.
about just
I
like
don't look
college,
too.
like just 1 foot in bounds, just 1 foot in bounds.
Yeah, yeah.
Alright, no, show alright, throw that Pilex only up here. Oh, we show the speeds. Here's the speed zone in Pilex, so it's masking that bleaching effect. Now here's Pilex by itself, right? So this is
Holy
an
cow! Yes.
HPPD
Yeah.
inhibitor, right? So we know
Mm.
it's meant to control Bermuda grass,
And see,
allegedly.
that's what I was
Uh,
expecting to see right there.
Now
The
let's look
bleaching,
at
yes.
Yep.
Pilex and Sencor, and then I want Ray to explain this. So look at this. Day 10 doesn't look like anything's happening, right? And then
Mhm.
look at day 21, it's clean. All that goose is gone. So Ray, talk about what Jim Brosnan found, or and really this was John Brewer, was the gentleman at um, Virginia Tech that really like figured out and dialed in the rates on this. But tell us why
Mhm.
this is happening when you combine these two specific chemicals. It's not a very, it is not something that would have been done had this research not been done, right? So somebody really
Actually,
did FAFO here. Go ahead.
this was there was a further FAFO because my friend Joe DeFrank was doing some trials at a sports field in Hawaii, and the maintenance crew was laying down Sencor, right? And they overlapped into his test plots. And what happened where they overlapped into his test plots, where he was testing both, I believe, Pilex and tenacity, is that wherever they overlapped with their Syncor app, two things happened. It mitigated the whitening or the bleaching, and it just turned the goosegrass and the other grassy weeds crispy. And let me please explain why that's happening. Sencor is what's called a triazine herbicide. And as a triazine herbicide, what Sencor is doing is it is aggressively reducing or eliminating photosynthesis in the weed and in the grass as well. However, when you have Pilex, what Pilex is doing is Pilex is inhibiting an enzyme that produces what's called a carotene pigment in the grass leaves. And what the carotene pigment is important for is carotene is important to keep the sunlight from breaking down and destroying chlorophyll. So you see that whitening or that bleaching when Pilex is used by itself, that is the sign that the carotenoid pigment has been eliminated from the plant. And with no carotene, the chlorophyll just gets literally bleached out by the sun. And when that happens, things are not long in this world. But when you have the inhibition of photosynthesis by the triazine herbicide like Sencor, atrazine will do this, and also thymazine will do this as well. But when you have that photosynthetic inhibition, two things happen. One is bleaching is mitigated on otherwise sensitive turfgrass species like Bermuda grass and even C. paspalum. But in unwanted species like, say, goosegrass or crabgrass, that delay in photosynthesis makes that herbicide that much more active and toxic in the grass. And so it just makes it, rather than what you see on, like when you put Pilex or tenacity on crabgrass by itself, it just kind of bleaches out and then it recovers.
Right.
If you
Right.
have Syncor, Simazine, or Atrazine in that spray, instead of it turning into a temporary bleach and then it's back, it's
And it
called,
bounces right back.
this one is, it bleaches, it browns, and then it's dead, gone.
Okay.
Okay? So that's what's
All right.
happening.
Cool. That was definitely one of the topics that I wanted to talk about was weed control, because more than likely that's gonna be something that's gonna happen. Like it
Oh,
just
absolutely.
it just is what it is. It's gonna happen.
Mhm. Yeah.
If we could rewind just a little bit. So
Please.
uh let's talk kill off and ground prep.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
let's hit those two topics. And then, because the ground prep is, of course, to me, I think is gonna be one of the key ones of, before we get the sprigs and everything down. Then I got another curveball for you on the sprigs.
Oh boy. All right, so
I
I would
just
say
I just got pitched that curveball, yesterday when I made a phone call.
all right, that's
Oh
fair.
my.
So
Okay.
the idea here, I think, is, the more invasive you get, obviously, the greater propensity you're going to have to, have weed competition, that sort of thing. And,
Mhm,
in a way, the grass, being there and being dead, just like when you overseed into, grass that's been sprayed out and fallowed, right? And cool season, that existing turf is sitting there acting sort of as its own form of erosion control. So, it's not the worst thing in the world. I would say though that where you do need to get aggressive for sure is areas where grading is a concern, right? So if you have like, wet areas, high areas, things like that, bird baths, small areas that are puddling, things of that nature, it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. But I mean, we've had re-sprigs where we've just literally gone out in a patch like this where, turf is, beat up, dead, whatever, and just aerified the ever living hell out of it, dragged the plugs, and just went right into that. We've also had it where we've stripped all that stuff off and completely, went went bare, down to bare soil. So, I think that getting power rake, Harley rake, that type of thing in there, you could do it. I think the other thing to consider too is, what your sprigging method is going to be, just like we talked about before, where you do need to get really good contact. And if you have a bunch of vegetation and thatch and everything else that's up there in the top, it's going to be hard to get contact on your soil for those
mhm.
sprigs. So uh, you know, that's why like each one of these decisions becomes, that much more in focus. So if it's going to be a situation where you're just like broadcasting these out and tossing these out by hand and just rolling them in, then I'd probably just go ahead and, Harley rake the whole darn thing, windrow all the grass and try to haul that, extra vegetation off, so it's not just sitting there and it's just tilled in because you're going to get lumpy and bumpy and everything like that. My
Mhm.
other question too here, as far as the finished product goes, is what will this be mowed with, and at what height do you anticipate?
So it'll be mowed with a, uh, 48. I think it's got a 48-inch rod on, John Deere. So
Okay,
it'll be rotary
okay,
mode,
okay,
Mhm.
and he'll probably end up cutting it inch, inch and a half, maybe.
okay. Yeah, it'll do fine at that
Um,
height, no problem.
yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
Well,
he typically cuts it. And cutting it on a regular is not gonna be a problem, and right
mhm.
now, that's kinda where he keeps the centipede at right now,
Uh-huh.
is about an inch is about where it's at right now, so, he keeps it fairly low, so I don't think that'll be a problem.
Well, that's good. So I would say that the quote unquote leveling, right, or the grade is important, don't get me wrong, but at that height, I'm not as concerned about, it being
Yeah.
1,000% perfect. So I think you can get away with a little bit more in that sense and be fine. Ray, what do you think as far as ground prep, knowing that, the Sprig application or installation method is going to be a little challenged? And I don't mean that like it's really specialized equipment to do it the 100% right way.
Yeah.
So if you're
Yeah,
trying to hedge against that, what would you say?
well, what I would probably say is, as Ryan was saying, rough up that surface because that rough surface is going to be the receptor for the sprigs. And then once you have your sprigs, down where you're like, it's as if you're throwing grass clippings. Once it's down like that, then you roll and you roll and you roll some
1,000-pound
more.
roller.
Not necessarily a 1,000 pound roller, but then you roll it for two reasons. One, so that the sprigs contact the ground, really tight, and 2,
Mhm.
so that when you need to walk on this for maintenance, you
That's
don't
smart.
sink down, up to your ankles because honestly, for me, the worst thing that I have to deal with is when somebody doesn't compact or roll enough. I get out there and I take a step into that lawn and I'm down to my ankles, and you know what a small guy I am, so that's not supposed to happen. It ain't like I'm fat or anything.
Jeez.
So
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 you
so
buy that
y'all
house next to
are
Waffle House. Go ahead.
so y'all are hitting on the points of exactly what I was planning to do. So my plan was after kill off, coming through and Harley raking
Mhm.
the entire area. Come through, Harley rake. We've also got a drag that I was gonna come through and get up most as much of the vegetation and stuff that's
The
left, all
trash,
of that
yeah, yeah.
debris and everything else. Get it cleaned up as much as possible, and then come back in. And like you said, I probably do some watering in between, a little bit of watering in there to get it to settle a little bit,
Yeah.
and then
Mhm.
start the rolling process just a little bit, and then let it fallow for a couple of a week or so, because I think at least probably 2 weeks, because I'm pretty sure there's some weeds and stuff are gonna start to popping up with the watering and everything else. Hit it again, just clean up whatever is there, rough the soil up, and then drop in the sprigs, and then rolling and get the water going.
I like it. I was gonna say
I
here, I'm gonna
love it.
show you. Let me see if I got this here. Send this over for J Pink.
Yeah, that
But
sounds good,
one thing,
Cam, I mean
one thing you go ahead. I was gonna say one thing you can do is if you do that, like that all that prep with the with the power rake and all that kind of stuff, and get it close, and then you let it sit there and just get rained on or whatever. Hang on, J Pink, I sent you the wrong link. If you do that, then at the time when it's ready to sprig, you can use this guy here. I'd highly recommend it. Nice little tool to have around. You can use it for a variety of different things, and I'll tell you how you can make it even more useful here in a second. As soon as J Pink throws
Mm.
this up, this is
Yeah.
the old chain harrow
Uh,
drag. So if you
that's
flip it
what I
like
was talking about.
this,
I already got one.
You got one. Awesome. Awesome,
a man
because
after my
I
heart,
already got one. I
this
used
man
it
is
after
to
my
I
like
heart.
used it to plant I used it to plant food plots last fall. I
Yeah,
got one already.
you can flip it over so the
Yep.
tines are up and do just fine at
Mhm.
smoothing the surface. So if it's not too bad, you just kind of rough it up like that. But if you really need to kind of like beat it up a little bit right before you do your sprigging, you can turn it this way with the tines down and then come back around, just flip it
Yep.
over, and that'll just
And flip
smooth
it
that
over.
finish out. Yep.
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 Yeah.
So
Yep.
I
Yep.
yep.
my man, gosh,
I've got one that's already down there at my house. That's what I was planning to use. So after we did the Harley
Yeah.
rake, I was planning to come back in with this, and we've got a four-wheeler that we're gonna be using to just to come
Work.
through,
Yes.
clean it up, and then do like the roughing part of it. And then we can bring in the mower that'll be a little softer when it's time to actually start smoothing and getting to that final surface like. So yeah, that's what I was planning to use for that.
All
I
that's
appreciate that,
right.
awesome.
Ryan.
Hey,
We on the same page.
I'm telling you, man, telling you, we got it going on. Okay, so let's go. J Pink, I think he sent an article over from, I think it was like Golf to Magazine or something. It's a sort of a summary of a research article that was written. Can you go ahead and pull that up and let's talk about this? Okay,
Yeah.
so this is a study that was done in several different locations. So this was done in let's see here, University of Kentucky in Lexington. Where else? Chrissy Seeger. So they were at Texas A&M. I know they were at Mississippi State, Arkansas. So this was replicated in a variety of different environments, right? And the idea here was that they were going to use latitude 36 as the grass that they were using to establish. And what they wanted to understand was sprig rate as one variable, and then nitrogen rate per week, right,
Mhm.
as another variable. And the reason that this came about was that there's sort of been Ray's favorite thing in turf dogma, that you needed to go out at like 1,000 bushels per acre, and you needed to slam this shit with like a pound, pound and a half of N every week to have any chance of getting this stuff grown in. So these turf grass scientists at this, at all these universities got together and said, well, hey, like, that can't be the same everywhere if it's even true. Let's take a look at this and see. So what they did was that they, again, a typical sprig rate back in the day was 1,000 bushels per acre, maybe a little less. And what they sought to do was to go 200, 400, 600, 800. I don't know if they did 1,000 or not. I can't remember. And then if you go back,
I
they
didn't see
did
that one.
on
Yeah.
weekly, yeah, so 800 was the top end. Then the, nitrogen rates, they went with 0 pounds per week. Then they went with a quarter pound, half pound, and a full pound per week. Okay, so as we look at the data, you might need to, yeah. So here's nitrogen rate, okay, and what they're looking at here is each of the different rates, as you'll see in the first column, and what we're looking at across the data table here is weeks 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 after it was sprigged, and the resultant percentage down there below. Now, look, I want you to look across this and look how closely clustered the data is each week, right? So,
Mhm.
again, top row, 0 pounds, and then we look down at 44 pounds in week one. We've got 30% coverage pretty much across the board. There's not a lot of deviation there. And then as we continue to go across, let's jump over to week four. A little bit of a spread there between the 1 pound rate, the 44 pounds per acre or 1 pound per thousand of nitrogen per week, in week four, but we're still darn near 87% on our 0 pound plots here. Now slide all the way over to week six, and we're 100% on all of our plots that are receiving nitrogen, 97% on our plot that's receiving no nitrogen. So by week eight, what they write in this paper is that by week eight, didn't matter how much nitrogen these plots got, they were established at 100% coverage, right? All right. So let's move on and look at sprig rate. There's another table down here talking about sprig rate, and we'll jump into that here real quick. Perfect. All right. So same kind of data setup here with the table 200, 400, 600, 800 bushels per acre. You'll notice though that look at that week one, the spread in data, right? So there's more plant material, comparatively more, almost 4 times more, but it doesn't pick that up necessarily on the percent turf grass cover, but comparatively more grass cover with the 800 bushel per acre rate as compared to 200. We continue to slide across. Now let's go over here. Same thing again. Week four, there is a pretty marked difference here, right? Between 83% on our 200 bushel an acre plots, all the way up to 96%, 94 or 95% on our 800 bushel plots. But gentlemen, slide over 2 weeks later, week six, it's all at 100, right? So whether we sprigged at 200 or we sprigged at 800, it did not matter. Now, these plots had, very good irrigation. Everything was just right, and these were means across all sites, right? So again, some different sites where they were in, a Starkville, Mississippi, Lexington, Kentucky, College Station, Texas, right? So some varying things, right, climate wise, but yet this is still where the aggregate data takes us. So I think the point here for you, Cam, is that yeah, like you still need to plan for some attrition and losses within your sprigs, just because, again, people will say, "Well, I'm just going to do it, and it doesn't matter." Well, it does matter in the sense that, like,
Yeah.
if you are having a certain amount of attrition, right, is that putting you the best chance to have success? And if you're going through all this stuff, right, so one of the things I don't know, well, I think we did say this or mention this in a certain regard last week when we were talking to Dr. Shaddix, was that he was kind of adamant at saying that, hey, soil tests, we only need those if we don't see turf performing. And I would argue too, and I think he did lead on to this, that if you come into a new situation, brand new, you have no idea what's
Yeah.
going on. Yeah, sure,
Yeah.
go for it if you want. I would
Get a
argue too that
baseline.
if you're going into a project or a renovation, right, and you're not amending or changing soils drastically, right, if you're going to work with pretty much what you have there, it's a good idea just in the sense that a $20 to $40 investment to make sure that your project that could cost you hundreds, if not thousands of dollars goes right. Like
Mhm.
that's a good piece of
Yeah,
insurance just to make sure you don't miss something, right? So,
exactly.
in that regard, though, that has nothing to do with nitrogen, but it does have to do with, understanding what the, what the limitations are, right? So it might be that, hey, somebody would look at this table and be like, well, why would anybody ever go over 200 bushels of the acre? Well, again, this is under ideal conditions, right? In terms of the way that these were propagated and
Yeah,
established and everything like that. So if we extrapolate and say, okay, well, I'm not going to put this down in the best possible way because I don't have the right equipment or everything like that. So I might expect to lose, you know, I don't know, 15%, 20%, something like that. And I don't want to, I want to hedge my bet. And let's be honest, like the cost to go from 200 to 600 bushels is not that great in terms of material. It's more so in the time it takes to get that stuff down there. And I will tell you for a fact, 100% fact, because we messed around with this up here in a very unsuitable growing environment, about as unhospitable as it gets for Bermuda, but we still grow
right.
it because I'm an asshole. Is that there is a point of diminishing returns. There is a point where you reach, just like seed, right? We don't,
Yeah,
if
yeah,
some is good, more is not gooder, right? Like we don't go
yeah,
out there with ryegrass seed and be like, well, man, if it says 7 or 8 pounds, if I put down 25, that'll be good. That'll be fine, right? Like,
yeah.
no, not really. Same thing with Sprig. So I think that's the other thing too here, is to say that you can overdo it. And these guys prove 200 bushels to acre on Sprigs is nothing. But you'll see sod farms do that all day, in establishing warm season sod, particularly on Bermuda grass. So interesting stuff. I guess, what did you take away from this, Cam? I mean, was there what caught your eye when you first saw this, and what was your thought as far as how this might be applicable to you in your situation?
Yeah, so reading through this article, that's the one article that I definitely read a lot into and kind of formulating a plan around, because those are the two critical factors of how much do I need to spend on sprigs,
Yeah,
and then also how much fertilizer do I need to be able to get down, and how accurate, as far as how often do I need to be putting that fertilizer down for the grow in. So looking at that, what I gathered from it is, if we want a quicker grow in and coverage, depending on what the cost is, the most that I'm gonna go is the 600 pounds per bushel, 600 pounds
600
a
bushels per
bushel
acre.
per
Yep.
acre. That's the most. Probably, if the cost isn't that much, then we'll go that rate. But if it's more expensive, I'll back it down to the 400 bushels per acre, and we'll go there, because at the end of the day, we're gonna end up at the same point. And then from a fertilization standpoint, it does have sandy soil. So
Mhm.
one of the things that you mentioned earlier was about going down with a slow release. So I was
Yeah.
already kind of looking at some of the polyon type technology, some of those, just trying to figure out, all right, we're not going to be able to get on it that much. Every week, we're not going to be able to get on it. So it's going to have to be something that's going to release at a rate that maybe we can get on there every 2 weeks, maybe every 3 weeks,
Cam,
something like that for a fertilization.
Oh man, I cannot
actually,
wait to hear what Ray's gonna say.
here's what
I'm
I'm going to tell you about
anxious.
doing polyon is that here's how I would figure it is, say you have a polyon product that is 50% coated or slow release nitrogen,
Hmm.
and that's like a common thing in the 40 to 50%. So imagine doing this, Cam, at time
Or
of
the water.
sprigging. No, imagine throwing down the equivalent of a pound and a half of N as that finished product at time of sprigging.
Okay.
And then what that should do is that should carry you through the first 4 to 6 weeks. That should carry you. Because here's the reality about slow release stuff in the south and the transition zone in the tropics. In
Go
real
ahead.
life,
I know where you're going with it.
this stuff lasts at best 6 weeks, no matter
6
what you
weeks.
do. Okay, so and that 6 weeks, because here's what I probably foresee is that by week 3 or 4, you can probably back down on your irrigation a bit.
Mhm.
And when you can back down on your irrigation, you can then get
Get
on
back
it
on it.
a little bit more.
Yeah,
But then I know that the first 2 weeks, probably not.
yeah, yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
that's just how it is.
and that's what I was thinking. I was like, you for about the first 3 weeks, I'm
Month,
thinking,
month,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
basically call it the first month. You're not gonna be able to get on it with the amount of water that you're gonna have to put down on it. Is
Hmm.
it it it's not a to me, I don't think it's smart to be trying to get on it at that point for making applications, which is why I was looking at some of the slower release type of products, to be able
But
to sustain through that period of time.
I'm
And
just gonna
then
tell
by
you
that
now.
week, and I was thinking by week 4, it'd be about
Mm,
time for me to hopefully first cut, maybe, or either just to be able to get back onto it to be able to put down another round of fert.
Another round of fert, or I'll start treating for weeds. But then,
Yep.
to me, I know my critical time after I sprig is literally the first 3 to 4 weeks.
Mhm.
That's just my
Getting it
most
established,
important
just
time.
getting it established.
Get it established, get it up, and to be honest with you, in actual practice for me personally, I don't care about getting any nitrogen down on those sprigs until I've seen it even take root. Because I first watch for the roots, and then when I see the roots come out and the grass start to send stolons, that's when I start to dial back the water. And when I've dialed back the water, that's when it's worth applying some nitrogen, applying some, NPK and whatever, because at that point, the there's grassroots available to take up that nitrogen and whatever.
Right.
Until you have
So
the
what
roots, you don't even have anything.
right, right. So what would your recommendation be, at the time of sprigging from an in input?
And N input, I mean, if it were me doing it, nothing,
Okay.
none,
And
none, because I'm more concerned.
you'd get back on it. You'd get back on it to make that first application around the 2 week, probably 2 week mark,
Three, three,
2,
three,
3 weeks.
three, 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah,
Okay.
because it's all about watching. Because like the moment I see roots, that is when I'm no longer maintaining that lawn like a rice paddy.
Yeah.
Okay, and that's when I'm
Okay.
kind of like, hey, let's dial back this watering so that it's maybe only watering 1 time or 2 times a day, and then once I'm only watering once or twice a day, that's when whatever nitrogen I apply is not going to get flushed away.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
when you're watering 6 times a day or five
Yeah.
times a day, which is what you're going to have to do with when you have sprigs on the ground, you ain't going to get fertilizer to even hold.
Yeah.
Okay, you're not.
Yep.
So,
That was
but
another one of my that was another one of my
yeah,
concerns was right
but
there.
then imagine if you're watering once or twice a day and you have that slow release nitrogen lawn fertilizer on there, right? And that then kind of helps you free up some time because then you're not over there spoon feeding it every 7 days.
Mhm.
Because if you don't have slow release, you're going to be applying anywhere from 1/10 to 2/10 of a pound of N every single week.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
And
ain't
and
nobody
and
got
and
time for that.
that's yeah, ain't nobody got time for that. So I appreciate that. That's that answered a big part of my question. So the remainder of the grow in. So
Mm.
what if we get once we get past, say, all right, we go down at week 3 with
Mhm.
maybe what, a pound, a slow release in?
Powder than as slow release. Yep. Because
Okay.
you have the grassroots and it's
Yep.
starting to like roll, and so throw down that
That'll
pound of in as slow release, and that's going to carry you through that four to
4 to
six
6
week
weeks.
period after it. You should really see it just take off without you having to babysit it and prod it very much.
Okay. All right.
Hey, that's just
That definitely simplified what I was thinking from a fertilization and grow in standpoint. All right,
yeah,
cool.
because because yeah,
I'm good with that.
yeah, because I know you've heard about the nutty programs for growing. And by the way, Cam, I've seen some of the nutty programs here in Hawaii too, where uh, what do we mean by we're putting down another 2 pounds of urea, and your last application was about a week or two ago? Just saying.
Yeah, yeah.
I
It
mean,
was I mean, and I saw those programs and those articles, and I'm like, "Geez, man, you got 4 pounds of N on the ground
in 1 month.
in the month. Like, are we serious?" So,
Well,
yeah,
my
that
question becomes, Cam, and for me, I'm always thinking in terms of why am I applying this if I don't even have the grassroots to take it up? That's always
exactly. E
that's my fair
exactly.
question. Why am I putting it down? Why am I doing this? If I don't have the grassroots, unless of course I want to be real cute and I'm going foliar or hydroponic.
Yeah,
But then if I go
yeah.
foliar or hydroponic, that means that I got to shut the irrigation off, right, Cam?
Then you can't water.
Then I can't
So,
water.
and that was my other thing. It was like, all right, well, now I'm gonna have to. I was like, once this first gets put down, I got to be able to spray. So now we got to make sure that we dry it down enough that we can get on it and spray it, and then be able to
Mhm.
get off because I'm gonna need the foliar uptake to be able to get everything going. And
So
I was looking at the
don't
different
don't
fertilizer. I
go
was like,
there.
all right,
Yeah,
what am I going? So
don't
I
go.
appreciate that. Like I said, y'all
Yeah,
definitely simplified what
yeah.
I was thinking about doing from a fertilization standpoint. So I
Because
appreciate that.
you know, Cam, even for me, the last time I grew in Sprigs, I didn't use a slow release, but I followed a similar thing where I waited until I saw the actual grass roots, and I was able to
Hmm.
reduce the irrigation, to like once or twice a day. And
Hmm.
then I hit it with my soluble nitrogen liquid, quarter pound per 1,000 square foot per application.
Okay.
And because I wasn't watering too much, that quarter pound of N stayed in the soil because it was AMS, right? So it was still there. So it's like just hit it quarter pound, quarter pound, quarter pound. I think I did a total of 2 or 3 applications like that. And hey, guy had grass after I was done.
So
He had a lawn.
any concerns with being able to use like AMS at some point, given where the pH was at previously, knowing that we
That's
put
why you
down,
lime.
uh,
That's why you lime.
yeah,
Okay,
we
Ken.
put that down to take care of that concern. So would you be
Hmm.
good with going down with with some AMS at some point during this with no
Yes.
concern?
Yeah.
Okay,
No problem.
all right.
And in fact, uh, it's too bad we don't have the soil test in front of us, because I know last week on our last burn-in return,
It,
and or on last Thursday.
it is low in sulfur.
Okay, that's why. That is exactly why. And
I
the
already
reason
knew where you.
why the reason why I bring that up is because I'm becoming aware of that entire southeastern region. For whatever reason, the soil doesn't have very much sulfur in it. And, you know, that low sulfur soil is a mixed blessing because, for example, it's good for growing tobacco. Number one. Number two is that's also good for growing Vidalia onions because the onions that are grown in a high sulfur soil are going to get spicy. But
Mm,
if you grow those onions in a extremely sulfur deficient soil, they stay mild, they stay mellow. That's why
okay.
that Vidalia, Georgia, town and the surrounding areas, that's why they can grow those onions, is because that town is super sulfur deficient. Because if somebody,
Yeah, I don't know about the onions, but they grow a whole lot of tobacco in this area.
yeah,
I
yeah,
can
but
I
then,
can tell you that much.
yeah, okay, so that's just why, you know, if you are producing that crop, then that's almost suggesting to me what your soil is like actually.
Yep.
And for all you know, insufficient sulfur might be why the centipede grass declined. I don't know.
Yeah.
Because I'd be one of those crazy people that I would literally hit centipede grass with AMS as its nitrogen.
Mm, yeah. So, going kill off. I think Ray, I think you and I talked about this previously. Recommendations for a combo for the kill off. I was
Mm.
planning, as you can see, weeds are starting to grow, but the centipede itself
Mm-hmm.
is still it still hasn't woken up yet.
Mm-hmm.
So from a timing standpoint, I was probably giving it to mid end of March.
Mm-hmm.
And it's probably gonna be awake or starting to wake up at least by that point in time. And wanted to know far as a recommendation for a combo for the kill off process.
Okay. What is present as undesirable in that area?
Uh, it's got it's got some buttonweed that's in there. It's got a little bit of clover.
Okay.
Crabgrass is in there, of course. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Not a lot of grassy weeds, to be honest with you.
Okay.
Not a lot of grassy weeds in there, other than the crabgrass. Not a lot of grassy weeds in there. Um,
Any any POA or wild type or common Bermuda present that you know
there is
of?
some there is some common. There is some common in there.
Okay. Okay.
There's a couple patches. There's a couple patches of common that's in there.
Okay. Because here's where this is going is now that we know you got buttonweed, you got clover, and you got, of course, a little bit of, grassy stuff, and you got the Bermuda. Now you're
Mhm.
looking at a Fusilade triclopyr glyphosate kill.
Okay.
That's where that goes
You
To the
said 2 of
ground.
the one you said 2 of the ones that I was already thinking. The glyphosate and, triclopyr.
Yeah. But then because you have a off type of Bermuda present, I kind of suggest the
So the
Fusilade to make
fusillade
sure
comes
that
in.
the
Yeah.
because the various research that has been done on kill offs when converting from Bermuda to something else indicates that having the Fusilade in there makes a difference versus just trying to do it with glyphosate alone.
Yeah. Yeah. It is.
Okay.
And you notice how I phrased that question, "What combo?" 'Cause I
Mhm.
wasn't going I wasn't
Yeah.
going straight holy water. It was gonna be something else that I was gonna go down with,
Oh, yeah,
in that
because
in
you
that vein.
see when I see people in the tropics or the transition zone trying to do a kill out with just, you know, the holy water. I have a lot of questions when
Yeah,
that's being done
yeah,
because, in all my years of chilling out before resodding or sprigging or plugging, I have yet to see an instance where the one sprinkling of holy water absolves people of all their sins. If you know what I mean.
yeah, yeah. Alright, so let me see. Ryan, you got anything? You got any
No, no,
inputs?
I mean, I think it's all good. I mean, I think that, I agree 100% with what Ray is saying in terms of the kill off because, you have such, a short window, you do wanna get all that out of there, and there's nothing really to worry about on the backside of any of that really, from
Mhm.
a,
Yeah,
re-sprigging standpoint, right? So,
yeah,
I feel confident that, you're gonna get rid of a lot of those issues, and here's the fun part that, that, gets to happen now is a lot of that stuff, Ray, becomes
Mhm.
pretty easy to clean up, right? A far more convenient and easy than it would have been had you had the
in
cool
a
season
cool
mix down
season.
there.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
because that monster post-emergent mix that we described to you earlier in the show,
mhm.
Mhm.
that hits buttonweed, that hits clover, that hits crabgrass and goosegrass rather hard. It hits it. It's not
Okay.
pretty, but it hits it. I mean, because I will have to advise you that should you run that on your Bermuda during grow-in, there's going to be a certain amount of singeing and yellowing.
Mm.
It's going to
Yeah.
happen. That's just how it is.
Okay.
But I will take that any day over the messes that I've had to walk into where I've got knee high or even waist high weeds
Alright.
because somebody followed more dogma and said, you cannot spray after sprigging. I mean, I've heard that one too,
Yeah.
where people say you cannot spray. And I'm like, okay.
Alright, so, another thing, so the curveball that I got dealt the other day.
Yes, let's
So
hear it.
Mhm.
I
I
so
live for this shit.
Oh.
I called about the sprigs, and, the local well, it's not really local, it's like 2 hours away, where I can go
Mhm.
get the iron cutter from. They make I think this is their first year selling the iron cutter.
Mhm.
So I don't think or they said they may not have sprigs available for this season. They may not have them until
Mm.
next season. They haven't
Hey,
fully decided just yet, but that is a possibility that they may not have sprigs. So we need to go down the path of I can't side all of that.
okay, now,
Oh.
So how are we creating the sprigs that we need? Best way.
Mm.
like, what's the closest large city here for to real Pop's house?
Greenville.
Greenville.
Or
Okay.
a large yeah, yeah.
All
Greenville,
right.
and
Greenville.
then,
Mm.
if we need to go a little bigger, we can go Raleigh's like 40 like an hour, 45 minutes, an hour away.
Raleigh, North Carolina is not far.
Right.
Okay. Whoo. And
Okay. I could tell you. How? Oh, all right. All right. We gotta
That was
recalculate. It's
that
like it's like
that
the
was
GPS, like recalculating, recalculating.
yeah, that was the
recount.
curveball that I got the other day when I called them up and I was like, "No, you can't be serious." They was like, "We haven't fully decided just yet, but it is
All
a
right. Let me do
possibility that we
this.
might not have sprigs available, for this season."
Hang on.
And Okay, because if
It's a
somebody
killer.
doesn't have sprigs, but they do have like sheets of sod for sale.
Yeah, they're for sure gonna sell the side.
Okay,
But
because
they may
all I'm gonna
but they may not have the spray.
All right, I got you
because all
covered,
I'm
dude. I got you covered. All right, I just had to
That's
do
why I'm
something.
here. That's why I'm here.
Quick math. Quick math. What if I told you, and I'll go on record as saying this. I have no problem doing this. I'm usually not a big testimonial guy, but I will say that the finest grower of iron cutter in the United States exists just 4 hours and 25 minutes from Greenville, North Carolina.
Okay.
And you can make
And
it
where
on your
is
way
that?
too. It's in Maryland. It's in Eden, Maryland. Over by just
ooh,
about south of
Oh,
Salisbury.
oh yeah. 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 I know that. I know where that area is.
So you just go right down through Virginia Beach and boom, you're there. 4 hours, 25 minutes. So I know it's not as short as you hoped it would be, but I know you would get like the best stuff that exists out there. So I'll hook you up. Those are my people out there. Collinsworth Sod, Eddie and the
Okay.
gang. Great people. Jason too. Two good dudes. I'll get you the hookup.
Okay. All right. Cool. That
You see
works.
that you see that curveball? It's out there in the bleachers right now.
yeah, yeah. Ryan hit it, so there.
Just gotta step into it, swing
You
early.
just got that's right. That's right. Keep your head down, pull your hands through. Boom.
Yeah, Ryan hit it, so it's not an issue because worst case scenario is you're going to be running sheets of sod through a chipper shredder. That's the worst case.
So
God, 20,000 square feet. Oh my God.
so
Yeah, a
and
little bit
that's
of
what I
work.
was that was gonna be my next question. What if we did have to go down that option?
Well, so I think it's so here's the conversion, right? Is that one bushel, right? So then we go into, thousand per thousand square feet. So your
Mhm.
600 bushel per acre rate ends up being close to like
Gotta wrote
15
down.
bushels per thousand.
Yep,
So
it's
here's your
close to
numbers.
that,
$15,000.
yeah.
You're a numbers guy. So it is every 5 square feet of sod equals 1 bushel, right? So you need 75 square feet of sod per 1,000 square feet to sprig at 15 bushels per thousand.
Mm,
One train leaves from Chicago going 55 miles an hour. Another train leaves from New
yeah,
York going 62 miles an hour.
yeah. Everybody
They'll
got that
crash into
question.
Cam's lawn at the same time. No, I hated those questions too. But no, so the the idea there though is that yeah, you could do that, and that's the conversion, right? The conversion is the 5 square feet equals 1 bushel, and then you just multiply up on your per thousand or
Yeah.
your per acre rate to figure out the total bushels you need. So in this case, if we've got 20,000 square feet, what is that? 1,500 square feet of sod, so like 5 pallets, or no, 3 pallets of sod. 500, assuming they're
Three,
500 square foot pallets, so
three pallets of
something like that.
sod. Oh boy, but then that's
That's a
not going to
lot
be a
of
fun day.
that's not
It's not going
yeah.
to be
You might want to get
it's
a
not a fun.
big tree chipper.
Yeah, you might want to hit up one of your tree service friends.
Yes. I was gonna say
Yeah,
that's where you
And
pay him and be like, listen, $200, case of beer and pizza all day on me. Like, let's just come and chuck
yeah.
come
this in
on,
there
look, yeah.
and waste your
Just check
blades
it.
so you have to take the whole thing apart. That's the worst part.
um,
Yeah,
Yeah. You do that with a rental. Well, we'll have to add that to the project cost. We'll look at like, Sunbelt and see what a nice chipper is. I'll do that for you real quick because I'm interested myself. But anyway, so I think you got options there.
okay,
I'll hit you up. I will send you directly the number of the gentleman to call, but I'll have J Pink throw this up in the chat here and check
okay.
out the boys over there at Collinsworth. Like I said, I don't like you know like testimonials and stuff like that. Everybody's got their merits, but these guys are good, very good at what they do,
Do
and
you do
very
you
good
know
stuff.
how they package their sprigs? Do they come I've seen them come in, like, boxes, I've seen them come in, like, little net
They did a big
bags.
they did a pretty big job last year. where I know that they harvested a bunch of them and they put them in super sacks, like in the big,
Yeah.
white bags that
Yeah.
go on a pallet.
Yeah.
The big
So,
ton, yeah, the big ton bag, yeah.
and it's not 1 ton because that stuff is so loose, but yeah, you could fit like 1 ton of like aggregate or something like that in there. But
Sand,
yeah, it
yeah.
ends up being like, man, I want to say you can get like 100 bushels in there, something like that. Maybe a little bit
In a
more.
super sack.
Yeah, I can't
Yep.
remember off the top of my head, but I want to say it's something like that.
Mhm.
See, and that's what becomes my other concern is because if I do have to pick them up from here, is how I'm gonna transport them. Because the best way is I'm gonna grab them on my way down from here because I'm like you said, it's right around the corner for me here. So
Mhm.
I'd probably grab them and then probably rent like an enclosed U-Haul trailer is what I'm thinking, and Imma just
Yep.
roll through and Imma fill that joker up as much as much as I can get in there, and then at
Yeah.
least it keep all the wind off of it, and
Yep.
then try to
Exactly.
hold
Exactly.
hold as much moisture and stuff in there, um, as I can,
I think it's a hell of an
and
idea.
then
It's perfect.
spray down the inside of had the water hose, tell the fellas, "Hey, just go ahead
You
and
get
wet that
mom's
thing
attic in a
down for."
U-Haul, man. That's like an extra, 80 bushels right there. Boom. Gosh. So no, I think it's a good curveball, but it's doable. It's doable. And so,
Okay.
um, I think the other thing too would just be, um, planning ahead for, as things wind down there. So, getting ready for dormancy and things like that. Ray, is there anything you should be concerned about there in North Carolina relative to, end of season, knowing that it's going to go fully dormant? It's not quite like Hawaii. I mean, you probably wish that your stuff would go dormant, but it doesn't. So, any tips that you want to provide so that Cam can get himself and his dad ready for what that might look like?
Okay, what your winter or fall wind down looks like is opposite of how you treat your fescue, in that 45 to 60 days after, before dormancy is expected, you're going to cut off your nitrogen and your fertilization. The other thing that you need to find out is is that neighborhood prone to large patch and spring dead spot? Because
Okay.
if that neighborhood is one of those disease zones, you are going to be doing fungicides on the lawn before the grass goes dormant. And I have to repeat that, before the grass goes dormant, because these are all systemic fungicides and our grass needs to uptake the product into the turf grass. Please don't be like these people on YouTube throwing Headway G on already dormant Bermuda. That's
Right.
crazy and that doesn't do anything. The time to have made that treatment was while the grass was still growing. Yeah, that would be my consideration on Bermuda going into dormancy in the upper part of the transition zone. Is, watch for those issues or
Okay.
know about them.
Yeah, I know I think I know one other guy that does some lawn care stuff around in that area, and then I'll probably call Paul and just kinda
Oh
Paul
touch
yeah.
base
Outlaw,
with him and
yeah,
see. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and
Call the
kinda
outlaw.
see, kinda see what he's talking about because I actually just went through his place and actually got some fert last season for my pop's lawn, so I'm a, I haven't I haven't been
Collab.
around. I haven't been around that way enough during the spring to see how that is, but I don't think a lot of people deal with lot of that spring dead spot, and I haven't noticed it. And a couple of the lawns down the street, I know that are new builds. They've got some.
Mhm.
They've got Bermuda put in, like from the
Mhm.
builder.
Oh,
So
okay.
Mhm.
it'll be interesting. I might swing next time I'm down there, just peep around and see what they
Take a
look
look,
like.
see,
'Cause yeah, they should be starting to get ready to wake up here in the next couple of weeks or about a month or so.
Mhm.
I tell you what, I think you got a plan, man.
Yeah, this is sounding
Crazy to
just
think.
so exciting. I mean, it is
So,
exciting,
real
and I
Yeah.
quick.
gotta tell you
Oh, go ahead.
that Bermuda is just to me, it's just such a wonderful grass.
Oh,
Okay?
Jesus. Raised tight again.
My first yep, my first love is Bermuda, honestly.
Yeah,
Oh,
I
goodness.
mean, I have a respect for it. I do. I mean, I know I talk trash about it. I know I say, I know I call it a
Well,
weed and
I
everything.
I get it because when you have that hayfield stuff popping up out of a turf type tall fescue lawn, that doesn't
Oh
look good.
yeah,
That's not a good look.
yeah,
I understand. I
yeah,
get it. I mean,
yeah,
but when you have a selected variety as a
Mhm.
monostand that's now being a maintained lawn, okay,
yeah.
that is to me, that's just I tell people now it's no longer a weed. Now that's the stuff on sports field and golf courses, okay?
Yeah,
It's no longer a weed. This is nice stuff.
yeah. I mean, I respect it. I can definitely come to enjoy some the nice cut, especially if you're gonna be able to real mow it on like
Mm. Oh,
some Bermuda. Man, um, I need a pallet here at the house is what I need. I
okay,
got a little test.
because
Don't break
I
it.
got a little test plot that that I could
because
definitely
as
I definitely
Cam, I
wouldn't
can tell
mind
you
doing that on.
one more curveball that I want to throw at you is that if you're looking for the next level of mowing on Pop's lawn that doesn't require you to drop money for a fairway or a trim triplex,
Mhm.
is sometimes a ground driven toe behind reel will work on
Uh-huh.
Bermuda.
Ah,
Oh, it works just fine.
Okay.
ah,
Okay. I mean,
okay. That's a
If Pops wants that, fairway or sports field look, I mean, and if he's willing to keep up with the mowing so that it's not 6 inches tall when he gets to it, one
oh
of
yeah,
those toe
that's not a
behind
problem at all.
ground driven reel mowers is an option because they're literally usable in that height range between 3/4 of an inch and an inch and a half. Okay,
Okay.
they're literally usable at that height range, so it's an option.
Yeah, yeah. I appreciate you bringing that up. Yeah, that man, man.
And a half acre, ooh, I mean that's a fun, nice size. And just so that you know, imagine towing like 3 to 6 20 something inch reels behind his existing mower.
Throw it up there, J Pink. Let's see this run. There you go. Just a little this is a little three ganger. You can get a 5, you can get a 7, you can get a 9, you can get some big boys, but look at this thing. It's perfect.
And Toro makes one too.
Yep.
Toro makes
That's
the Groundsmaster tan, gang reels. And
mhm.
okay, I have fond memories of these mowers because back in the old days, Ryan and Cam, these are the kind of mowers that used to be used on a lot of the Hawaii parks and school grounds. And
Okay.
then some genius back in the late 1980s or mid 1980s decided, why don't we use a rotary mower instead because it's easier to do the maintenance on the rotary. And that is when all of the brush species took over because the real mowers were maintaining the Bermuda grass that was planted on the fields and parks at about an inch tall.
Yeah, a lot lower height of
And
cut.
yeah, and once they switched to the equivalent of a bush hog and mow it at about 4 or 5 inches tall all the time, all the bad stuff took over.
Mm.
That's the other thing that I'm going to tell you about keeping Bermuda in that situation is mowing it low is like one of your defenses against having it being taken over by weeds.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay? Low mowing is like one piece of it. I mean, the other pieces of it is yes, you can use things like prodiamine and other. And oh, Ryan has to warn you about using quinclorac on hybrid Bermuda.
Just be careful.
Yeah,
Or be
be
ready
careful.
to be ready to go out there and be like, oh, that doesn't look good. Well, I'm not gonna look
Yeah,
at it for another 10 days.
Yeah, it's
No.
going to look scary for about 2 weeks, and
Okay.
it might look very frightening. But then, again, that's why I say your best defense against weeds is actually going to be to mow it low.
More.
Okay, just mow
Okay.
it low. I mean that's just because I'm trying to think now, and I think your pops might get into that, being that he's kind of a lawn fanatic.
Yeah, it's not gonna take them long. It's not
Uh,
gonna once it the problem's gonna be is you know what I'm setting myself up for. I'm setting myself up to have to do this again next year. Is what I, is
I was
what
gonna
I'm
say,
doing.
dude, this that's why I said it was a 20,000 square foot test plot. Let's be real, man. Like,
What?
I know where this is
Or
going.
Yeah,
or is Pops the guinea pig, and then
Yeah.
once
yeah.
you have it all dialed in
Look,
and sorted out, you're taking this on the road. It's prime time, right, Cam? So all of your
exactly.
because let me guess, you deal with some what I'm going to describe not so affectionately hospice cases
Mm-hmm.
as far as lawns
Mm-hmm.
go, right?
Yep.
And
Yep.
you're thinking you can keep on reseeding, fertilizing, and treating this,
Yep.
but then it's all going
Yep.
to end up the same, right?
Exactly.
And so
Exactly.
it's
That's
time to
exactly
say,
where
enough
and
already.
and
Let's just do this one time.
and they want something that's and it's like from a maintenance standpoint, they're looking for something that's gonna be a little lower maintenance, that they're non-irrigated. I mean, even in this area, they're fine with it going dormant. They're fine with the dormancy part of it, but it's just the fact that right now is I call it one of those hybrid mutt lawns. I mean, you got the Bermuda growing in, and then you've also got the cool season in there, and it's just too much of the Bermuda to be able to maintain it or to keep it under control and let the cool season thrive. So I,
And you know what, Cam?
it's a
There is
lot
a
of
third.
cases where this would
There's a
just
third way to.
work.
There's a third way for that. There's a third way for that, Cam. And you know what that way is? Is
Bulldozer
if
and sand.
Bermuda. No, no, no. If Bermuda says that it wants to be the grass in that lawn, and you've just got like sprigs of fescue popping up here and there, making a anemic
Oh yeah,
effort,
yeah,
then at that point, what I say is, you know, put that poor fescue out of its misery, and
yep,
then take care of it as a Bermuda lawn from here on out.
yep.
I mean, that's just.
Um, I'm on the verge of doing that one. I'm on the verge of doing that with one. Like it's really probably 50-50 at this point. And
And here's the.
as soon as I've started fertilizing it, the freaking Bermuda, by the end of the season, it was probably 60-40, if not more.
Mhm, mhm. Because the reality is that in order to have the Bermuda not be the thing there. You almost
I
have
had to
to
suppress.
starve the Bermuda and mow the fescue high. But then, even then, that doesn't look that good. It looks. I understand it looks bad. So
It didn't work. It didn't. That didn't work.
and so
That
at that
Bermuda
point,
still is.
it's there. Yeah. So then that's what
Yeah.
you're faced with, and then at that point, it's like I'd say, okay, plan B is you use the same products that you use during the iron cutter establishment, like the Celsius
Mhm.
and the Revolver and the Monument, and you can literally wipe out or blank out the fescue and the ryegrass and let the Bermuda thrive.
Yeah.
Okay, I mean that's just
I'm in that. I'm almost there. I'm almost there
you're almost in that
in that
space,
boat.
yeah. It's
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
Because let me ask you this: when do people use their lawns? Because I'm still imagining, to
When it's
me, in
warm.
my eyes, uh, that lawn had better not look bad for 4th of July. I
Yep.
know that. Okay, I
Yep.
know that. And so if you have one of those things where you have that patchy looking Bermuda because it's not being mowed low enough because you got to keep the fescue. I mean, no, that just doesn't. That's not a good
Mhm.
look. I mean, I get it, because the whole deal is that the way to rehab that is, I guess, you sell people on, okay, we're going to convert this to Bermuda, and then you're going to mow this a little bit lower,
Yep.
Gotta
right?
get them on the right
You're going to mow
pace,
this a
though,
bit,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
Always.
And around here, 4th of July is when cool season lawns start to take their turn. Like
And not look
even
and
even
not
even
look so
even even yeah, even mine. Like mine, that's when my struggle starts. From 4th of July
oh,
on, I'm just trying to keep it alive. Like I'm doing everything I can to keep it
right,
alive until overseeding. From
yeah,
4th of
because
July on.
Ryan has this saying that he likes to put on people is, yeah, anybody can
Oh yeah.
grow cool season grass up until Mother's Day. After that, it's
Mhm.
pro time. You got to be
Better call a
good.
pro better call a professional.
Yeah. So, but then on the other hand, with Bermuda, from I guess Mother's Day till September, that is just cruise time almost for Bermuda. You just
Yeah.
got to keep up with the mowing, right? You just got
Yeah.
to keep up with cutting
Yeah.
it, and that is not the
That's
worst
not a bad
thing, because
that's not a bad gig.
yeah. So it's because yeah, I know for me, I say in my area, any old monkey can grow zoysia between tax day and Thanksgiving. But the story changes from Thanksgiving until Easter, because that's when the real drama can start.
Yeah.
The
So
drama.
there's times of the year.
Yeah, I mean, we're in a good place. I mean, I typically I've got a program. My program's
Mm.
pretty. I figured things out around here, and
Mhm.
it's been working pretty good the past couple of seasons. So it took me a little bit to figure it out and make some adjustments from fertilizations to fungicides and all of that stuff. So we're in a good place right now. But yeah, I'm
Oh,
this is a
and
big test plot for me, is what it
okay,
really is.
okay,
I
because
wanted
you
to
have to
do some
treat,
other testing before.
but then you have to do fungicides on your fescue to keep it alive in the summer, whereas for Bermuda, you mostly are on almost easy street on your Bermuda. And in fact, how's this one? During the summer, you can even fertilize it some and keep it green during the
Right.
summer. How's that?
Right.
You can give it a little and feed
Right.
it. So
If only,
that's
right?
just like, yeah, yeah. So then the thing is that what I tell people on Bermuda is that there's less expense for fungicides, but you may have to invest in a more complicated and costly mower to maintain
Yeah,
it well.
yeah.
That's the only like trade-off that I can think of on Bermuda. Otherwise, I don't miss saying the rosary every morning and hoping that Piscium and
You don't
Brown
walk
Patch,
out
for
to
example,
yeah,
don't
to
show up,
mycelium.
right?
Yeah, you'll walk out the yard full of mycelium.
Watching
all
them
Yeah,
those
move.
all those grayish white threads just kind of like
mhm,
weaving through the grass. Oh yeah, I mean, yeah,
mhm.
you don't have that as much. I mean, or else here's my favorite thing about diseases. I've been to yards or lawns now, Cam, where I don't need a diagnostic test because I can literally smell the stagnation and the decay.
Oh,
Yeesh.
Because to me, certain diseases stink. I mean,
Pythium.
they have a, and even brown patch to me
Pythium
smells bad.
Pythium has a smell, and
It
I know
stinks.
that from experience, and it's not an experience that I wanna have ever again. But yeah, like, I agree with you. Like, there is a smell. It
It
has a
stinks.
smell. It has a smell to it.
It smells
And at the
bad.
time,
Okay.
I mean, that was early on in my lawn career, and I hadn't quite put my finger on exactly what it was. That was the point of, "Hey, I'm either gonna dig in or Imma throw in the towel." And, hey, throwing in the towel ain't quite my style. So, hey hey
Yeah,
hey, we on the other side of that now.
yeah, we're on the other side, but then I'm just gonna say that there's been lawns where I'm hit by that smell, and I have to turn around and tell the person, this is not a good sign
Mhm.
because you have these dead areas forming in the grass, and I can smell the rot and the decay. This is not
Yeah,
good.
yeah. So, any other pointers? I think we walked through the whole process. We talked kill off, we talked, ground prep. Um, I don't know if there's anything else. Turf polo, I seen y'all in the chat. Anything that we talked about that I haven't brought up yet?
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, so we've been talking about this in the background in our we work in chat, and,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm. Mhm.
Chuck saying water. Yeah, so, watering wise yeah, and I like the way he spelled that too. I got that one. Um And, so for watering, I've got some heads on order. I do like Hunter, that Imma
Mhm.
try out. I'm looking at I wanna try and see if I can go something bigger, and not have to have as many heads, and get a little more coverage on them and run them on a single. Imma try to do 8 if I can get 8 zones to be able to cover it. Imma look for, um I may just go ahead and get a 16 zone, ratio controller just in case
Mhm.
if I need to add more zones instead of I've got a 8 right now, and I've
Let me
maxed it
just
out
kind of
here at my place.
like give you the math for this, or the approximation, the rough estimate on this.
Okay.
Okay, if you have a large rotor, right?
Uh-huh.
Like a Hunter I-20 or a Hunter
Mhm.
PGP,
Mhm.
the maximum radius or distance you can get out of that head is equivalent to your PSI. Like, say you have
Okay.
50 PSI,
Right.
then you're not going to get more than 50 feet of
50 feet.
radius, no matter which orifice you installed in that head.
Okay. Okay.
Okay, I mean that just so that you have an idea, because I know you're looking at like the I-20s or the I-40 hunter
Yep.
heads,
Yep.
and unless you got the water pressure
Got
and the water
pressure.
volume
Yep.
to drive them,
Mhm.
no.
Yeah.
In fact, if you don't have the pressure, I might even tell you to go a third way, and that is set up the MP rotator 360-degree 30-foot radius heads if you don't
Mm.
have a lot of water pressure,
Okay.
because those guys will easily hit a 30-foot radius or a 60-foot diameter with low
Okay.
water pressure. They can do it. I mean, I'm just kind of thinking ahead, because not everybody is blessed with good water pressure at their
Yeah.
house.
And I think, uh, from taking a shower there recently with all the
At
new
that's
builds that they've
at
got on
that's house.
they've got
Yeah.
in the area, the water pressure
Mm-hmm.
has dropped. The water pressure has
Oh,
dropped.
gone down.
So it's
Oh,
not what it's not what it used to be.
so
Which is why I was like, I
okay.
want to get down and try a couple. I'm ordering the I-20s, and I mean, of course, I'm gonna just order one of them just to try it out and see how it goes.
And
And
see what
I've got a
happens.
use for it. Yeah, and I've got a use for it here at my house too, if it doesn't
But
work.
then
So I'm
I'm
not
just saying
really worried
though
about
that what I know about I-20s and PGPs
it. Hmm.
is literally those heads need 40 psi or higher at the head. However, if you send your water through a hose, a normal water
Hmm.
hose, by the
It's not
time
gonna be.
it's not going to be 40 or 50 psi at the head anymore.
Yeah.
So that's just
I plan to run it. I plan to run it through. So it's going to be temporary above ground that we're going to use just to grow it in. And
yeah,
I
just
plan to run
controllers
either,
and hoses.
yeah,
Yeah.
controllers, but I'm gonna switch it to 3/4 poly, at least 3/4,
Mm,
if not an inch,
mm,
poly, depending on what I get with the pressure.
mhm.
So it's gonna at least be 3/4 inch poly, going to
3/4
the
inch
heads.
poly ID, and that's going to cut on your friction loss through the tubing or the hose a little bit. But I'm still saying that if you don't have the incoming water pressure,
Oh yeah,
that's just something to think about. And I would
yeah,
even tell you, try out that MP rotator 30 feet by 360, the MP 360, because you
okay,
might find that in this use case, that might outperform the single stream big turf rotors, because
yeah,
every time I've ever used one of those big turf rotors, those heads just need pressure, pressure, pressure.
hmm,
They do badly on residential water pressure. They can't.
okay,
They just don't perform. I mean, they literally need to be in one of Ryan DeMay's builds where they're
on a
sucking out
turf
of
complex.
a 6-inch water main, feeding them at 70 psi. That's what they
Well,
want.
if
They
you
don't
want to do
want.
that,
Yeah.
we can
How?
facilitate that. Just let you know. I mean,
Yeah.
we want to go
Yeah.
down that
But then
road.
I'm just saying. Yeah, I'm just saying that if you're talking about a residential water system where it goes through a 5/8 inch water meter, and then it goes through half-inch pipe to the spigot, the I-20s and the PGPs don't like that.
Mm,
Okay, they
okay,
hate that. Just saying. I mean, that's not their jam. I mean,
yeah,
their
I
style is
understand.
more one of, as I said, one of Ryan's builds.
Yeah, hey
Mm.
man, I'm in receive mode over here right now. I'm done on transmit. I'm here to listen tonight.
Yeah. Well,
um,
I'm just trying to like get out that you know any other possible bugs, because to me above anything else, Cam, delivering water to a sprig job
Yeah.
is probably the most critical and important thing I can think of. I mean, I don't care about the weeds even, because the weeds I can spray later, but then I'm more worried about if those sprigs dry up and die.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm in
And
trouble.
and and I've already told my pops, I was like, "Look, the cost of everything else, the one you
Is
need to
small.
prepare for the one you need to
Yeah,
It's a
prepare
water
water.
bill.
for is your water bill." Like,
Mhm.
that's the one that you need to prepare for. I was like, "Because
Ho
there's no way that we can do this without water." Like, there's
Okay,
hands down, there's no way we can do this without
you can
water,
get
and
without
I'm
getting
not
the
gonna
water
do
down.
this. Yeah, I'm not gonna do this, and I'm not gonna put my name on it without us having water. So,
Okay,
we've already
now
signed up. It was like, if we gonna do this, we're gonna do it we're gonna do it my
all
way,
in. Yeah, it's
and
all it's all in because
we gotta go all in. Like, I've asked him a couple of times, I was like, "Pops, you sure you ready for this now? Like, are you sure?" Before I cut
because
the
here's the
we
thing.
were at the farm supply store about to pick up the lime, and, I had backed the truck up, and I was like, "Look, Pop,
Here we go.
we about to get 1,000 pounds of lime, and where your pH is gonna end up after we make this application is not where that centipede wants to be. It's not gonna be happy after we make this application." It's like,
Mm.
"Y are you
This
sure
is
you wanna do this?" And we were standing at the
point of no
cash
return.
register. Yeah, we were
Point of
standing
no
at the
return.
cash register.
Oh god.
He was like, "You know
Yeah.
what?" He was like, "Yeah." He was like, "I wanna do it. I'm in."
Yeah.
I was like, "Alright,
Mhm.
All right.
let's
All
do it.
right.
Let's do it."
Yeah, because here's the thing is that in some ways, what I tell people is sprigs may be less expensive, but in the end, the price is a wash because the
Mhm.
amount of irrigation water that you need to get them to grow in
Yeah.
kind of gets the price close to sprigs because I'm in the land of $5 per square foot sprigs, right? I mean, not sprigs, but sod. I'm $5 per square foot sod. Sprigs cost about half that per square foot installed. But
Didn't
can we
factor in
be
the water
ready for?
bill.
Yeah, get ready for that $1,000 or so water bill. Just saying.
Yeah, that's just
Yeah.
part of the game, though. It is
Yeah,
the
it's
way
just
it
Yeah.
is,
just
and
what it is.
And I mean, even up here in Maryland, like, during cool season, like, if Imma do a renovation and Imma put stuff in, I won't do it without water. I just
Hmm.
won't. I was like, you're just gonna have to factor in, Imma bring some hoses in, Imma set up a temporary, irrigation for you to get grown in, and then
Hmm.
you can continue to use that when the summer comes the following year. But it's one of those
Right.
things that I won't do it. I won't do it. I just won't. Like, I hands
Mm.
down, it's just not gonna happen. 'Cause I know the
Right.
outcome.
Right.
Like, if you're gonna depend on just rain during that period of time,
Hmm.
it's it's a rough gamble to make. No matter how
Well,
many times you tell the client, this is potentially what could happen and everything else, they're still gonna be pissed off when it doesn't turn
when
out
it
the way
died,
that they want it
yeah,
to be.
and Ken, that's why I love Dr. Shattuck's last week because he put out that slide that outlined the most important
Oh,
factors.
the pyramid.
The pyramid, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that pyramid is something that I told Dr. Shaddix. I mean, because he thought that he was going to have to be fighting with me about a lot of things. He was legitimately afraid of that, right? I said, no, no. I mean, it's like, yeah, for me, my most important factors when I'm dealing with a turf problem are I want to get water right, light
Yeah.
right, temperature, and then I told him I give not very many damns about the soil or what's in it, because in most cases, the soil is like a very minor or insignificant part of what's actually wrong there.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
It should all be that easy.
yeah, well, it can be, but you know, you have these people that say if you add this to your soil, all problems are solved. But then in the meantime, I know, hey, this grass ain't getting enough water. It's not getting enough sunlight. Or you have grass that is in an area that is either too hot or too cold for it to survive. So what are you going to do? So
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I'll say is that forcing the issue is a problem, and I don't think that in this case Cam is forcing the issue. I think it's, it's a natural progression. I think with it being a cold taunt variety in that area of North Carolina, it's going to do exceptionally well. I'm excited to see it, and the only thing I will ask as we close this out is that you document the ever living shit out of this, please. And
Oh,
just,
don't
I'm
you
serious.
worry.
Whether however much gets up in like content right away, like I'm just saying, like even if it becomes like a montage later on, or something that you only use like 10% of
Yeah.
now. Like I promise you, you'll go back and look at it for sure.
Yeah.
So
This is gonna be fun. I'm actually excited for it. Like I really
it should
am.
be.
Like it's one of those things that is not only for my pops. I know he'll enjoy it. And I know it's gonna give us a lot of time together. I'm gonna spend a lot of hours on the road and a whole lot of gas
well,
back
yeah,
and forth.
yeah.
But
Mm.
I'm looking forward to it. It's a new challenge. It's something that I've never done before, and especially in this industry, I just I like going into new things. So and then I can kind of talk a little bit on the warm season side from experience and not
Mhm.
necessarily just something that I read or from an article. It's something different when you get out there in the field and you get to
And
experience it. Like when you
and
get
you
it
actually can
firsthand. Yeah,
grow it
yeah,
in
yeah,
and maintain it
yeah,
and all that, and then you can kind of like say to people, okay, I did it, and this is what you can expect. And that's a very good point, because Cam, in my area, I'm one of the few people that still knows what Bermuda grass is.
mhm,
I'm one of the few people, honestly.
Now
And I
you're
know
gonna
Ryan
have
is thinking that's a sad
what?
thing.
It's
Yeah,
not
it's
a
a sad
sad thing,
thing.
but well, guess what? As one dies away in Hawaii, another one is born in North Carolina. So
yes,
I'm
sir.
excited. I am pumped. I can't wait to see it all. But we got to get out of here, boys. It's time. It's time for bed here. So listen, Cam, where can people find more about you? Make sure that they go check out your channel. Where can they find you?
Elevated Lawnscapes on YouTube and IG, and
There we
that's where you
go.
can find me.
All
Come get it.
right.
All right. Next week, the next of the We Work and Bash Brothers is coming up. We've got Mr. Robert Palmer. Turf is on next week. I tell you one thing: turf ain't growing Bermuda and New Jersey, or not New Jersey, but Germany. New Jersey, jeez, still tired of it. But he ain't doing it in Germany either. So either place. But listen, I thank you. I know Ray does. I know Matt wishes he could be here too, but we give you all our best. We can't wait to follow along and see what's up. And we'll all be available for late night Discord and phone conversations for sure. All right.
Oh, oh yeah, you can best believe those are gonna come. Come about mid April. Yeah, we're gonna
Yes,
need
sir.
those.
Yes, sir. All right,
All right,
boys. Have a
fellas.
great night. Love y'all.
All right, love y'all.